Мгм.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, всем привет.
Okay,
Очень доброе утро.
welcome to class 6. I think this is one of the most crucial classes in this course, right?
Uh, I I thought we'd already covered it, frankly. It's such an important, there's some of the ideas in this class are so important that I thought we'd already covered it. Uh, so big ideas that will stick with you. So I know we say that every time, but it's true.
We had a similar thing in one of previous courses, but here we consider. Okay, let's just start.
Yeah, truly foundational. Some of the ideas that we're going to talk about today. So I'm excited, and it was interesting, to be honest, to go back and look at it and do the course again 20 something years later, do the class again 20 something years later. That I had some wrong ideas from my first listening of it, and there were some subtle points I'd missed the first time around. So we're excited to share it with you today.
Yeah, you got lucky. You will hear all the correct ideas.
Yeah, hopefully.
Okay, sit up straight, close your eyes, make several breathing movements. Maybe you were like me running around for a couple hours before and your mind is not very clear. Then you can do this exercise. Listen to the outside noises. And now leave the noises and decide to listen what's going on in your body. And now that your mind calmed down a little bit, think about your life. What are your current happy things and problems you're dealing with? And think about this class. You infected me. Think about this class and make a decision to use the knowledge that you will get out of it to apply it and turn this world into something really beautiful, because you will change your karma. And you can think about your teacher. Maybe you have one. Or if you don't, you can think about an imaginary one. You can think about the leader of your religion if you follow one. And make an offering of this perfect world that you will create to this person. This is how we pay for the class. Go back to your breathing, open your eyes.
Открыть глаза.
Открыть глаза. Okay.
So one of the things that I've been thinking about this last week about this class and this course is that it's important to remember what school we're in, right? Geshe Michael has taken the course and he'll present things from, the 4 different schools, sometimes in one class. And if you remember, the 4 schools that we're talking about are the 4 Indian schools of emptiness, Abhidharma,
Detalist.
Detailist.
Abhidharma is detalist.
Yeah,
right?
Abhidharma, Sutrist, mind only, middle way. And middle way is divided into the independence and the consequence group. And the middle way consequence group is at the top, according to us. Abhidharma people think they're at the top. Maybe. And so it was tricky, right? Remember the last question from the last class? They'd been talking about the mind only, and then the mind only school's perception of the foundation consciousness, storehouse consciousness. And then the last couple of questions were looking at the mind only school from the middle way perspective. And it can be confusing, particularly if you're not aware that they've shifted schools when they're examining the question. So it can look like they contradict themselves. And it's pretty common in Tibetan texts that that's what they're doing, is that, they're coming out of, particularly in the Gelugpas, a debate tradition, right? Continuously looking at other people's positions and examining why they aren't correct. And so if you're going to understand this stuff, it's really helpful to remember what school you're in. It's critical, frankly. And so today, we're going to be looking at issues from the middle way consequence school. So
from the highest school.
From the highest school, yeah. This is the school of Geshe Michael, Ken Rinpoche, Trijang Rinpoche, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Wabanka Rinpoche, Jason Kappa, and on back. Chandrakirti, I would say Nagarjuna, but
of course.
Well, but Nagarjuna taught the middle way. He didn't break it down into consequence and independent group.
Yeah, but his ideas are definitely not independent group.
Big debate about it in the monastery.
Okay, we will debate between us. We will be back.
So anyway, in our lineage, this is the highest viewpoint, middle way consequence. And by the way, if you're interested, really great discussion in here. This is Nick's book. Really great discussion in here about the difference between the independence and the consequence. It's going to be definitive. I've never seen anything like it until this. It's really, really good. So if you're interested, there's an appendix in here that talks about the 10 things that distinguish the middle way consequence from the middle way independence.
Yeah, it is getting more and more difficult to debate with you. I was thinking I'm good in the highest middle way because I translated almost all Nick's classes into Russian.
Well, see, the thing is, I cheated. I read the book.
Okay, so this class starts with a very interesting perspective, like how actually karma is caused through the lack understanding of emptiness, right? Lack of understanding. And the source of this particular class is not Abhidharma Kosha, of course, because we are not in the Abhidharma school anymore. We are in the middle way. And the source is called Uttara Tantra, which is not Tantra at all. It's like something like the highest flow, right? Or the highest line, translated, high line. It is an open teaching book, and the source of this book is very, Geshe Michael says sexy. Can I say sexy also?
You can say sexy.
Okay. The source is very sexy because it is written by Master Asanga, which is strange enough a half-brother of Master Vasubandhu. Master Vasubandhu is the one who wrote Abhidharma Kosha. So the previous classes, before class 5 was in mind-only school, right? The first 4 were in Abhidharma school, Lele Jikten Natsokye, right? It comes from Abhidharma and describes how karma works, chapter 4. So Master Vasubandhu, he collected all the knowledge from this school because the school was dying basically, and created this Abhidharma Kosha book, compendium. Master Asanga was his half-brother. They had a very famous mom. She was a nun, a very good nun, and she disrobed, which means she gave her nun's vows back, not because she couldn't keep the vows, but because she got to some spiritual realizations, and she could see dreams that were like prophecies, you know, like she was she had this dreams that were like clairvoyant, right? And she has seen that if she will give away her nun's vows, which monks and nuns hate to do it because it's basically it's a bad deed, right? So she still did it because, what are you looking for?
I'm looking for my glasses. I got oh, here we go. This pair. No, I don't want that pair. I do not want that pair. All right, this pair. Thank you. Sorry for the interruption.
Okay, so she has seen a dream. If she will get disrobed, give away her nun's vows, then she will have 2 sons from different fathers, by the way. This is why they are half brothers. And they will be they will become very important figures in the lineage of these teachings. And boy, it's true, they wrote probably half of of the most famous books. And one of them was a son of a Brahmin, and another one was a son of a king. I should admit, I don't know who was whose son, Master Vasubandhu and Master Asanga. So Master Vasubandhu, he had both, of course, high middle way. They were both realized beings, which means they have seen emptiness directly, both of them. And the reason why Abhidharma Kosha was born is that Master Asanga forced his brother, Master Vasubandhu, to write it because he had to clean some karma of making fun of lower schools. Was a big cleaning because it's 8 chapters, like quite big book.
And just to be clear, Asanga is associated with founding the mind-only school. Well, it's important to say, right? Because people are going to get confused.
Yeah.
Asanga is the founder of the mind-only school, and Master Vasubandhu is associated with the Abhidharma school.
Okay, So, which means both of them were writing for the schools they didn't believe in, right? Because it was helpful for other people who could not understand the highest school. So hopefully you guys are people who can, because the class will be in the highest school. So how this Uttara Tantra was born? Master Asanga was meditating. Famously, he did overall over 12 years of retreat, right? So it's a very famous story. Like he would do the 3-year retreat, and Malaf, maybe you had to stay longer in your 3-year retreat. Yeah, so he decided to leave, and then he has seen somebody who was doing something impossible, like how you call it, like with the feather touching the rock and aiming to smash it to the dust. And 3 times same, like he would come out and then he would see somebody who was really struggling, like to do something impossible, and he was like, yeah, okay, I have to go back. And to be honest, retreats are great. I dream that one day we will take a 3-year retreat. Maybe it will be 12 years at the end, I don't know. Yeah, but this is my dream, to make such a retreat with Bill. And so at the end of this last portion, he was really tired. He exhausted his energy to stay in the retreat. He decided to stop. He has seen this dying dog in the middle of the road that was crossed by a wheel, and was half of it was already dead and half alive, like with the small how you call it, maggots inside the wounds. And he got so compassionate that he decided to save both the dog and the maggots. So he had to get them out of the wound, but he was thinking, oh my God, I will smash the maggots because they're so tiny with my fingers. So I will use my tongue. And I remember it was a horrible story for me, like, oh, you know, a half-dying dog with the maggots. And but once he leans over the dog and tries to get the maggots out, suddenly the whole scene changes. He is in a different world, and instead of the dog, he sees Maitreya, who is the upcoming Buddha. And Geshe Michael recently is, I think you have heard him saying that Maitreya is closer than you can think. And I don't know what to make out of it, guys, so let's leave it like that.
Yeah, he hasn't always done that. He hasn't. Almost every class now he's saying Maitreya is closer than you think.
Yes,
and
since
that's
years.
And that's a relatively recent thing to be doing.
Yeah. So Maitreya, he dictated this famous Uttara Tantra and 4 more books. And Master Asanga, he is nominally considered to be an author, but actually he was the scribe. He was just taking notes after Maitreya. Okay, so.
Do you think that's possible? Do you think that could really happen?
I think this is what happened, actually.
You think it was literal?
I think it was. Do you?
Yeah, I think it's literal. That's emptiness, right? If things were self-existent, I'd say, well, it's just a fairy tale somebody made up. Raskaz? Fairy tale? Raskaz?
Сказка.
Сказка. I would say it was just a fairy tale that somebody made up, a сказка. but with emptiness, I think it's possible. So.
Okay, so let's, you want to do the first one?
No.
Okay, can we see the first slide?
No, we can do it. I mean,
okay, so Maitreya, in his work entitled The High Line, which is Uttara Tantra, describes 6 different steps in the process through which the tendency to grasp to some self-nature causes karma and thus the world of suffering life. So this is how we create karma according to the highest school. When you are born, you already have karmic seeds, which are called bakchaks in different schools, even in mind only. And they are of 2 tendencies. First is to see things as self-existent, and meaning things that are yourself and parts of yourself. And these seeds were planted since beginningless during your past lives. And as we know already after ACI 4, if you accept one past life, it is automatically you accept infinite past lives. Please go to ACI 4 if you don't know why. We will not be talking about it right now, right? Okay, so I think we need to discuss a little bit more about what we grasp to.
okay.
First, we grasp to self, right? Like myself, and believe in self-existence. And second, we grasp to what is mine, like first me and second mine. And I mean, we have stuff, right? My phone, right? My, I don't know, my husband. But actually, it's not about it. This is about parts of me, like my hand mostly. It is important. It goes on to the things, but the biggest trouble is about this Dakdzin and Choki Dakdzin, right? So the me and mine. Why is it so important, my love?
In mind, you tell me. My mind was off on somewhere else. You go for it.
Because it brings the most of trouble. We can harm another person because we have this strong grasping to me and mine. This is so like it's almost feels physical, right? My self-existence. I am not a product of my seeds. I have some nature on my own. And this is what is based on the first link in the wheel of life, right? So what happens next? Due to the seeds that are planted during past lives, we have 2 tendencies. They ripen, and we start to have 2 tendencies to see things as self-existent, right? And first is the Dakdzin, and second is the Chuke Dakdzin. Probably next slide. Okay, so what happens after that? The bakchaks from previous lives gave us these 2 tendencies to grasp to myself and to grasp to other things, to parts of myself. Then we start seeing things the wrong way. Some things appear to you as attractive and others appear to be undesirable from their own sides. do you have in mind an example, like how things can appear as attractive and not?
Well, the classic example is, right, the two husbands in the kitchen. So like you walk in and you know you got the story that Geshe Michael, because you had criticized your kids in the past, and then a few days later you walk into the kitchen and then you're taking care of things at home. Your husband walks in and you're expecting him to say something nice to you. Instead, he says something unpleasant. And then if you think that unpleasantness is coming from him, then you're going to criticize him back, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's ignorant disliking. That's thinking that the unpleasantness you're experiencing when the husband criticizes you is coming from him and not from you having criticized your kids a week ago. And so that's ignorant disliking. Ignorant liking. Almost everything we're seeing in politics right now. People, people taking things from other people without because they want it, because they think that, and just simply taking it from them, right? And that's coming from an ignorant idea of why you get things in the first place. I mean, can you take it and be successful? Maybe. But if you get it, it wasn't because you stole something. You get it because you would have been generous in the past. And then, anyway, longer story. If you're taking stuff, it won't last for long before you run out of the karma to have it.
Yeah, and is it bad to have something that is attractive, or you think that something is undesirable, right? That's a big question.
Yeah, this is one of the most common misconceptions that you see if you read Buddhist literature. The idea that liking and disliking are wrong, in which that's silly. It's, of course,
very common misperception.
Yeah, very common. And it's not liking and disliking that are wrong. It's ignorant liking and ignorant disliking. I mean, of course, you don't want physical pain, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, of course, you're going to dislike being really cold, outside when it's -10 and you don't have a jacket. It would be ignorant disliking if you were to steal somebody else's jacket to be warmer, right? That's, or I guess maybe that would be ignorant liking of their jacket. Because you had ignorant disliking of being cold. That's the way it goes, right?
Yeah, this is exactly, we are up to the 4th out of 6 now, right? Based on your misperception of things, you begin to feel ignorant liking and ignorant disliking of the subject.
So it's not that enlightened being doesn't want anything. They want to see you be free from suffering, right? Mm-hmm. They don't want you to suffer. And so
also, you may see in other translators, in other translations, other than Geshe Michael, they will translate it with strong terms like aversion or hatred, and then you read it and you're like, it's not about me. Probably I don't create karma.
Yeah, right. It infects every single thing you do, right? It's at the base of what it is to be human, right? This ignorance about things being self-existent, this wrong idea of a self, right? Because we think that we're separate from the world around us. We think that there's this discrete, isolated self that I have to take care And we don't realize that everything we do to somebody else, you're doing it to yourself. Except you're going to get it back
with
interest. Yeah, with interest. And so that's the ignorant idea of the self, the idea that we're separate from the world around us that we see. And that's what all these discussions are. It's about, how is it that we're related to the world around us? It looks like we're separate. At times it sure feels like you're separate. But how is it that we're connected to everything? And how is that possible, right? I mean, it's 13 miles to downtown from here. How am I connected to that, right? And that's what we look at.
Then what happens? So let's review the previous steps. So we have bug checks from past lives, right? Then we have these two tendencies to grasp, and to grasp means just to see myself as self-existent, right? To myself and to my parts, mayo. And then out of these inborn tendencies, we look at things their own way, and we like them or we don't like them. And we have this misperception of these things that are attractive or undesirable that is ignorant, like, oh, I really do not like this in my life, or I really want this in my life. And I do not have this idea that to get something, I need to give away something. Or if I want to stop unpleasant people in my life, I should stop my my anger, and I should not try to get rid of them, like physically, for example, right? Does not mean that if you, I don't know, have bed bugs or cockroaches, that you will kill them and they will be gone forever, right? Unfortunately, it does not work this way. Or fortunately, I don't know. Then with this misperception of things, ignorant liking and ignorant disliking, which happens like every single second to us, we do something, right? We act and we collect this karma, lesak. This is when we collect the karma. And then what happens? This karmic causes bring you another instances of the same, right? So you circle around in the cycle of suffering life because your karma causes you to continue to do it. This is the presentation of the higher school.
And it's all, if you want to go deeper into it, there's the book on the Wheel of Life that Utpala wrote, right? With Geshe Michael. Wasn't it Utpala?
Sugeng.
Okay, Sugeng. That one is, which one is that one?
We don't have it.
Oh, we don't have it yet. Okay.
No. I think you read it
electronically. I read the online version. Yeah,
you can get it, but just don't forget, when you are people are amazed by Sugeng's book Wheel of Life, don't forget it's the lowest school, okay? And it doesn't mean that everything is literal
Abhidharma
from this book, from the Wheel of Life.
Okay.
Then
still extremely worth reading.
Then what happens? I mean, how you can stop it, right? I mean, we have now these 6 steps to get problems in your life. How you can stop it? By stopping ignorance, that's it. By stopping believing in the fact that you are self-existent, and by stopping acting out of ignorance.
And if you recall, it's impossible to not see things as self-existent until you've had the direct perception of emptiness. Until you've learned to meditate deeply and had the direct yogic meditation experience of seeing emptiness directly. And that's before that, you're always going to have doubts about it. Yeah, so.
And interesting, I was thinking, like, it looks like you should go backwards, right? So you go from your actions, you try to stop your actions, not to hurt other people. And then you work on your perception, and then you work on your deeper seeds of probably by this time you have your direct perception of emptiness, right?
And it doesn't mean that things are hopeless until then. You can get quite a long way intellectually, and you can actually, they say that you can reach a place just on an intellectual understanding of these topics where you wouldn't take a lower rebirth. Meaning you would never come back in one of the births of pure suffering, like hell beings or hungry ghosts or animals.
Yeah. And I mean, how this is different, right, for different beings? Like, why, I don't know, why does the dog why the dog cannot write with the pen, right? And in this school, they explain how it happens that different types of beings, they can look upon the same exact object, and how it functions for every single living being that looks upon it. So let's imagine there are three different beings that are looking at sitting together. I don't know how they can sit together, but let's imagine.
It's theoretical.
Theoretically, three different types of beings, and they look at the glass of liquid, full of liquid, and they see three different things. What actually do they perceive?
This is one of the bigger ideas in all of the ACI courses. So, how is it?
If you will understand this one, you will understand how you will become an enlightened being, right?
Yeah, it's so when we say things don't have any qualities in them, right? That, so a liquid, they're going to say liquid is wet and flowing, right? But what would happen? So you have a hungry ghost, right? And a hungry ghost has the karma of never being able to satisfy themselves. They say that it's usually somebody who was very attached to things in this lifetime and was stingy, that was extremely not generous. And I mean, honestly, I've seen some rich people like that who were extremely wealthy and extremely attached to their wealth. And
or you can see people who have bad addictions, right?
Yeah. I think if somebody has, a bad addiction to drugs, they're getting close to being a hungry ghost, because their whole life is consumed with getting things, getting something, and they're never satisfied with it, right? It doesn't alleviate the intense desire that they have for the thing. And so, they talk about things like their necks being too thin so that they find something to eat, they can't eat enough, or, their arms being too short so they can't feed themselves, or, all kinds of difficult things.
They say they have three kinds of obstacles. Can be outer obstacles, like somebody does not let them get what they want, right? Can be with the intake, like the throat stuff, or inner obstacles, like they can have what they want, but then it burns their belly and their intestines.
And so when a hungry ghost looks at a glass of water, they're not going to see water. A water is, cool, refreshing. It's nice. And so a hungry ghost could look at a glass of what we would see as water. They would look at a liquid, and what they would see is like blood and pus, right? Something horrible, nasty. A human could be looking at the same thing, at the same liquid, and they would see water. And then if you had a god, a worldly god, they could be looking at it and seeing ambrosia, was the term that got used in class, but
Amirta?
Amirta, the nectar of deathlessness, right? Like just something really extraordinary. So then you have three beings looking at a glass of liquid and seeing three very different things at the same time. Now, how is this possible?
Yeah, the question is, does it mean that nothing at all is one way or another way?
Well, it means that nothing at all has to be one way or the other way.
And never was.
And never was one way or the other way. But is it one way for the hungry ghost? Yep, absolutely. It is blood and pus. It functions as a nasty glass of blood and pus. Is it one way for the human? Yes, it's one way for the human. It's a glass of water, right? Is it one way for the worldly god? Yeah, it's one way for the worldly god. It's a glass of I don't know, would worldly gods have the nectar of deathlessness? I don't think a worldly god would have the nectar of deathlessness.
They would.
But they died. Big
Mm.
debate in the monastery.
Big debate in the monastery. I mean, in the Hindu scriptures, you have, who was it? Oh boy, Narayana, right, was given the nectar to the gods and to the pleasure beings, right, high pleasure beings, and asuras were not supposed to get one. And there is this story about one asura trying to partake, and he was cut into two halves, right? So, but we don't know exactly.
So it just occurred to me, because as I was teaching this, then a Buddha might see it a completely different way than the other four, but that's a completely different subject. We're going with worldly beings right now.
Yes, still they have some kind of very cool drinks that are much more refreshing than just water.
Yeah. Well, and that isn't too hard to imagine, right? I mean, you see it in the New Testament where Jesus turns water into wine. And the people have the ability temporarily, because of the change in their mental seeds, to see that. So, there are historical examples of beings who've, and I think that's literal. In fact, I'm convinced it's literal that Jesus turned water into wine, and had the ability to do it. But anyway, that's a different subject. So then, how is this possible, right? This is the question that we know that there's mental seeds, right? And again, in the middle way school, there are outer objects, right? In the mind-only school, we said there are no outer objects.
Mm-hmm.
We're in the middle way. The higher school is saying that there are outer objects. So if there are outer objects, how is it possible that the three different beings are seeing something that's completely different like that? How is it possible that there is both blood and pus, water, and the nectar of deathlessness all in the same glass? I mean, does that make sense, right? And so, the first time I had this class, 25 years or so ago, and it's probably 24 years ago. I was intrigued by the answer, by the idea that three different things could exist, and but then how? And the point going back through this class 24 years ago that was that I hadn't really grasped the first time around was that according to the middle way, they're saying that there's a different object there also, that in the glass there is one object when the hungry ghost sees it. And then when the human being sees it, well, now there's two objects. Mm-hmm. And then when the worldly God sees it, now there's three objects. And so if the hungry ghost were to pick it up, if somehow all three people could be looking at the same glass of water, and then if the hungry ghost were to pick it up and drink it, as soon as it drank it and it disappeared from view, there would be only one object at that point. And it would be just the blood and pus for the hungry ghost. And so they're putting a mental label onto an object, but there's three different objects. And so then, I was thinking, the Super Bowl is the big American football game tomorrow. And, in the stadium, there might be like 80,000 people in the stadium. And if they're all watching one player, God, this is a little hard to imagine, right? If you have 80,000 people watching one player, they're saying there's 80,000 different objects, parts, parts. And everybody is having their own unique perception of that person, right? That's a little hard to wrap your mind around, but that's what they're saying. And that it's that part that's out there and the mental label. So everybody's having their own unique experience of that, right? And how different can it be? As different as
blood and pus and water.
Blood and pus and water and the nectar of deathlessness. So what did I miss in that discussion?
No, I think we covered everything. Just to summarize, right? You have three different beings looking at the same exact object. The question is does it mean that nothing is the one way, like nothing is definitive, right? No, it doesn't mean. For a hungry ghost, it's blood and pus. For a human, it's water. For an enlightened being, or for a pleasure being, it will be something better than water. Let's phrase it this way. And they are all correct. It is according to their past karma. It's not opinion, right?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah, it's
you may feel like, oh, maybe they have just an opinion about the same stuff. No, it's different for all three of them.
yeah, it's actually functioning, right? And it's interesting because there's a discussion in the text of an iron ball that has been heated up, like a ball of metal, an iron ball that's been heated up until it's red hot. And then, I don't know the mantra, but they say that there's a mantra you can say, and then you can pick up the iron ball, and it won't burn you. And I'm 100% sure that that's possible. I don't know the mantra, but
Logically.
logically, it's the quality of heat isn't in the fire. The quality of heat is a mental label that's being put onto a part. And if you change that mental label, I'm 100% certain you could pick up that ball of red hot iron and it wouldn't burn your hand.
Yeah, like there are cultures that walk on the hot coals, right?
Yeah, and to be honest, whenever I'd seen that, you start thinking, well, is there some trick of physics that people are using to walk on the hot coals? Like maybe if I pick up my feet real quick, or maybe if there's a layer of ash on the coals, or, I'm just making stuff up. But, maybe there's some trick of physics that makes that possible. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about being able to, is it possible, theoretically, I'm not saying to do it, that is what don't go do it, right? Don't yeah, don't just say don't burn me, don't burn me, don't burn me, and stick your hand in a fire. It's not going to work like that. But
theoretically, if you have karma, that will be similar, right? I don't know, some kind of protection, right, of other people, probably.
I'm sure it's possible. I'm sure things are that empty. And that's according to the middle way school, that fire doesn't have the characteristic of being hot until your mind labels it as hot.
Then I have a question.
All right.
It's strange enough, it coincides with the third question in the homework.
Yeah, but the homeworks usually follow a logical pattern.
So does it mean that, is it possible that three different beings, they're looking at the same exact object and all their perceptions are valid? Maybe I am right that I'm seeing a pen and the dog is wrong because it sees a chewing toy.
Yeah, and I think by now you should probably be getting a pretty good sense that all the beings are having a valid perception, right? That the fluid in the glass functions as blood and pus for the hungry ghost. It functions as water for the human. It functions as the nectar of deathlessness for the worldly god. And why does it function? Because it's empty. Because of its emptiness, that part is capable of having an image projected onto it by a mental seed. Because that screen is blank, you can shine a film onto it. You can shine a mental projection onto it of blood and pus, water, the nectar of deathlessness.
And this is how it becomes water or whatever for you.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a more complex argument. If it was in the object itself, the object would be unchanging. And could you interact with an unchanging object, right? Because it would always be whatever it is. It would always be water. It would always be
Nectar of deathlessness.
nectar of deathlessness. It would always be blood and pus, because it would be in the object, unchanging, right? Because it would be like, that's what that object is. And that's a subtle point. And, you know, with all of these things, if you put the idea in your head, because again, it's very different. We come into the world with the mental seeds to see things as self-existent. I mean, we think water is water because it's water, right? Well, seriously, we think we think, of course it's water, right? It's like everybody I know has always seen water.
Can I try maybe?
Yeah,
Water.
well, and the thing is I don't know what she really experienced. I mean, she says water, but I heard her say water. Well, why did I hear her say water? Well, I have the mental seeds to hear her say water.
Mental seeds.
Yeah, I know. I mean, seriously, no, that's true, right? And
I mean, same with these teachings, right? There are people who come and who are amazed, like, wow, this is what I was looking for so many years. And some people, they come and they're like, I don't know. Don't know what to make out of it.
well, that's the famous line. I like the New Testament, because Jesus clearly knew what he was doing. And you know, he said, when he was talking about the teachings, he said, oh, it's like I'm putting pearls in front of pigs. And at the time, pearls were the most valuable thing because they didn't have scuba equipment to go diving for a pearl. And so pearl was more valuable than a diamond. And so like, this is pearls before swine. You know, I'm going to give you a pearl and you guys are just going to chew it up with the other filth that's on the ground, right? And then the point is that a pig can't see a pearl. A pig doesn't know that a pearl could buy, you know, a palace back at that time. You know, a pig is just going to eat it along with the trash that's there, because they don't have the mental seeds to see a pearl or to understand it. And so you can't change the pig in the moment, because they're being forced by their mental seeds to see, you know, a tasty rock or something instead of a pearl.
Yeah. Talking about pigs, I remember when I was doing this course, I really did not understand this class. So it is not that the pig can, in these teachings, right? I mean, I was the pig who did not see all the pearls, maybe. Maybe not a pig, maybe a piglet. But when you know how to plant seeds to understand more in these teachings, you will see everything with the time, right?
And it's a really subtle thing, right? Because in the mind-only school, they were saying that there are no outer objects. In the middle way school, they are saying that there are outer objects. Okay, now this
how?
yeah, right. Well, I mean, this is a difficult thing. Well, what do you mean there are outer objects? Well, if they're outer objects, don't they have qualities in themselves, right? How could they be outer and not have a quality? And do we want to? Okay, I've opened up the can of worms. We're gonna go.
No, it's okay, because this is exactly the first question.
Well, according to the independent school, middle way independence, right? they're going to say that things exist
if you see them
50-50.
Mm-hmm.
It's half mind and half outer object. But we're not in the independent school. We're not in the middle way independent school. We're in the middle way consequent school. And so then how do things exist as an outside object in the middle way school? Like, it's important, right? And I don't think I fully understand it, to be honest. I can tell you what they say, but I don't think I fully understand it.
This is one of the classes that requires a lot of analytical meditations on. Right?
So they say that, the unexamined object exists, no problem, right? The glass of water, it exists. There's an object, you're putting a mental label on it, no problem. If you go looking for that object, if you go looking for the glass of water, right? Well, you'll find, parts to that glass of water. And then, okay, so you have the top and the bottom. And then you divide that down. And then, you can see you quickly start dividing down till you get to an atom. And so you got hydrogen and oxygen, and then you break that down and you've got hydrogen. And then you break that down and you've got quarks, and then you break that down and you've got the left side and the right side of a quark, or the moment of this or the moment of that, or right, they're going to say that if no matter how small you make it, if it's there, it's still going to have a left and a right and a middle. If it's there, if it's occupying physical space, it has a left and a right and a middle. And so then you keep taking that middle, and then you look again. Does that middle have parts? Is it physically there? Well, that has a left and a right and a middle. And then you take that middle and you just keep going down and you never find it.
Yeah, and if you would find it, it would mean that there is a self-existing object.
Yeah, right. And so in the middle way consequent school where we're at, there are outer objects, no problem, unexamined. If you start looking for it, though, you can't find it. And so, not an easy concept, but it's not water until you project a mental label onto that reasonable basis. I've got the mental seed to see water. There is a part out there, and I'm projecting that mental image onto a part. And then, I'm almost always glad that there aren't physicists in the room, because I think they would get offended if I talk about quantum mechanics, because I don't really understand it. But if you look, I mean, they're pretty clear that an observer has an effect on the material world. And then, like, I'm not qualified to debate quantum mechanics, but I think you can say that scientists are aware that
a particle can be a wave.
Yeah, and that if you start looking for things, it gets a little fuzzy, right? That it's not the 1980s high school version of physics where there are, solid atoms that exist and are indestructible, unless, of course, you do destruct them, in which case you have a bomb, but that's a different matter.
I think I have several examples, because first, don't worry if you do not understand completely the class, because it takes a lot of analytical meditations. And honestly, without even, I remember I would have a grasp of something inside of analytical meditation, and then I come out and like it's all like everything vague, again. So just by doing it again and again and listening to the classes, you will get more and more deeper understanding.
Yeah, these are really great introductions to the ideas. Really great introductions. You're not expected to understand the middle way consequence school from
one class
or 10 classes. You're going to be studying this type of stuff and examining your mind and the relationship of your mind to the world around you until you get enlightened, until all of your ignorance has been removed. And then, well, why do we care, right? Okay, like I'm not interested in physics. I have problems. I want answers to my problems. I didn't come here for a physics class from a person who's not a physics professor, right? Well, it's because this is where your problems are coming from, right? And if you understand the process, then you can start taking care of the problems. Well, why am I seeing this as, why does a hungry ghost see it as a glass of blood and pus instead of a glass of water? Well, because they didn't have enough kindness, because they hadn't taken care of somebody else in the past, because they don't have enough good mental seeds to see a glass of water. And then you can apply that to your own life, right? Well, okay, so I don't have a partner. Well, how am I going to get one? I can go to the bar and buy a lady a drink. That's how I'm going to get a partner, right? Because that always works. If you go to the bar and buy a lady a drink and you get a partner, well, the only reason it would work is if you'd taken care of somebody who was lonely in the past. And so then if you understand the process, you can skip the whole damn bar thing. Take care of somebody lonely, and then go do whatever else it is you really wanted to do in the first place, and she'll show up. You can go to a Tibetan class in Arizona and she'll be there. Because that's the hot place to meet beautiful women, right?
Arizona.
Yeah, it's hot too, right? Which some people like the heat in Arizona and some people don't. Well, why? Right? Mental seeds.
And I have a couple examples like how to think about this idea, because I remember I had troubles with understanding how I can have something physical, really physical, divided into parts and never find the last part. How it is it? Imagine, actually, this is Nagarjuna's dream, right? He had, before he had these realizations, he had a dream, and he has seen a stupa, which represents Buddha's mind, enlightenment being's mind. And he has seen inside of the big stupa, smaller stupa, inside of the smaller stupa, then smaller, indefinitely. Infinitely. Infinitely, non-stop. Oh, I remember I had this, dolls in my childhood, matryoshka, like in one doll, you have a smaller doll, then smaller doll, then smaller doll. And I remember I was upset when I would get to the smallest one. Because I was like, why cannot open this one? Because it doesn't feel right. It should open also, right? So it's not that it is not logical that there is no final particle. It is logical. It should be like that if nothing is self-existing. This is how you can change it. And the big question is, before you moved your focus to the smallest matryoshka, did it ever exist? Before you tried to divide it and find the smaller one inside, right? Did it exist or not before you touched it with your focus?
It's the middle way consequence school that we're in would say that because there are no characteristics in any external objects, that's why you can get enlightened. If there was something about you that was, made up of some indivisible part that had some quality of its own, you'd be stuck with that. You couldn't change it. You'd be limited. And so they're going to say, because there's nothing that's self-existent, you can be enlightened. So interesting.
You can also think about it as a, I don't know, it's a little bit like a hologram, right? There's an object, but there is no physical stuff, right? Maybe this also will help you to imagine.
And then with the hologram, you're going to get into the discussion of light. And is it a wave or a particle?
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so the last question.
If you're interested, the Dalai Lama wrote a book about physics and his worldview.
Okay, so how let's see how the consequence section of the middle way school explain what is happening in this case. I mean, in the case of three persons, three beings looking at a glass of liquid, using their concept of three parts, three material causes, and three contributing factors, right? Like there are three beings. So
we have a fair amount left to go, don't we? Okay, keep going. Sorry. Keep going.
So the three objects are the pus, the water, and the nectar of deathlessness, right? We can say that there is a base object that is liquid, like here you can see on the picture, the glass with something. And then this object, this base object has three parts. And this is the highest school, by the way, right? So the liquid provides the material cause or the stuff that turns into each of these objects in the case of each of three different kinds of beings. And each mind of these three different beings has different mental seeds. And this karma in the mind of these beings forces this base object to turn into what they see, right? And karma is the contributing factor in this case. This is how the consequence branch of the middle way explains these three different perceptions. Then what happens to the three parts when, I don't know, somebody will touch like a craving spirit, a hungry ghost, or a human, or a deity will touch the glass?
We've discussed this already, but do you want to describe it in your words?
No, just we have the next slide, so maybe we should summarize, right?
Okay. I discussed this earlier, so why don't you discuss it?
Okay. So somebody is attempting to drink, right? The liquid becomes exclusively what this guy is experiencing, right? So it goes from being a part of the blood and pus to fully blood and pus for this being. this is what happens.
Yeah, so 3 objects are in the glass when the 3 different beings are looking at it. The 3 parts, right?
Parts.
Not objects, parts. The 3 parts are there. And then at the moment, the hungry ghost consumes it, and the other 2 beings are no longer witnessing the part. Those parts that they were witnessing go out of existence. And then there's only one part, just the part that the hungry ghost is experiencing.
And it becomes fully the object, right? The blood and pus.
Yeah.
So what left?
So is it actual blood and pus, or is it fake blood and pus?
This is the same question, like, okay, so you say that everything that I see is a projection of my mind? Oh, so it's not real?
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's not real, then jump jump in front of the car, and the car that is not real will break your legs that are not real. You will get in the hospital that is not real, and you will feel pain that is not real but horrible. I mean,
yeah, this would be a little people tend to slide to thinking that nothing matters because they're empty after they've sat with these ideas for a few years. They're like, well, it's all empty anyway. Well,
from another side, and other people, they think that if something functions, it is real, meaning self-existently real.
Yeah, the two extremes. Is it self-existent, or does it not exist at all? I guess nihilistic is a word. I don't think it's exactly accurate, but sometimes Geshe uses that word. But yeah, is there something that's self-existent there, or is there nothing there at all? And people tend to slide to the it's all empty, nothing matters wrong view after having had this for a while, and like, but that's not the case. Your actions matter, and your mental seeds matter because they're why things happen, right? It's why it hurts if a car hits you. It's why, it's nice to have a good partner. It's why it's water or blood and pus. And it functions that way, right? And it's and you can't just imagine it away in the moment. It's because otherwise I would imagine this was a bar of gold and I would be done working.
The perceptions, you do not choose your perceptions. They are forced on you.
You don't choose them in the moment, right? Yeah, in the moment, you are forced to experience what you've done in the past. You are in control of your future. Yeah,
you can plant something better.
Which gets into a discussion of self-will, which is...
And if you plant something better, then at some point you will be forced to see yourself as another being. And this is how these teachings explain how you can get enlightened. You will perceive the object, for example, these parts, right, your body, you will get a different part of it because your karma will be different, and it will be a real in the meaning of functioning, right? In the meaning that you will truly perceive it, you will not fake it in your mind, body of an enlightened being and mind.
Forced to be happy.
You will be no other choices. You will have the only choice.
Incapable of suffering.
Incapable of suffering.
Seriously.
Yeah. Okay. That's it.
Good class, I think, according to my seats.
Точно.
Blame yourself if you didn't like it.
Okay. So yeah, now seriously, if you understand this class, then probably your practice will get stronger. You will try to be a better person, more ethical, because this is how you plant everything that you perceive, and there is nothing except your perceptions. It's not that the world is not real. It's almost exactly the way you were thinking it is, except it is all created by you. It's physical, tangible, like you still can have a husband or wife and love them, but it is planted by your seeds, and this is just an explanation of the mechanism, how it functions.
Mhm.
Close your eyes. Закрыть глаза.
Закрыть глаза.
And
Пожалуйста.
think about the fact that you spent 1 hour, 23 minutes trying to better at understanding how the world functions in order to become a different being, a being who is forced to be happy by the mental seeds that being planted in the past, has the body of light, cannot get old and die, has the mind that is all-knowing and holy great compassion, possesses holy great compassion, and is able and want, because of this compassion, help every living being. And that will be you. So think how cool it would be if not only your problems will get solved with these teachings, that is absolutely possible, but you will do something even better with your life and dedicate this class for it to become true, for it to become your perception. Go back to your breathing, open your eyes. Thank you very much, translators.
Mhm.
Thank you, volunteers. We always need volunteers, by the way. If you want to plant better seeds, please join the team. They are all wonderful. They will not hurt you. They will teach you how to work happily and without overworking also.
One last thing. This material is subtle. It can be difficult. Studying it creates seed for being able to understand it. Your capacity to understand these things is as great as an enlightened being's. If you're not enlightened yet, studying this will plant the seeds that will lead you down the path to get there. So if it's difficult right now, don't worry. You're planting the seeds for it to become accessible.
Okay, thank you very much. See you tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Okay, yes, tomorrow.
Class 7.
Super Bowl day. Пока-пока.